Welcome to Gist Nigeria from the BBC and Channels TV, where we look at the stories being liked and shared on social media. I am Wali Fakile. Straight on to our top story for today. For over 2 weeks in October 2020, young people organized protests around EndSars, calling for a complete ban on the special anti-robbery squad of the Nigerian police force. The protests rocked cities across Nigeria and later moved beyond EndSars to demanding good governance. What began as peaceful protests soon degenerated into chaos as hoodlums began to attack peaceful protesters across the country, leading to different reactions, from jailbreaks to burning of police stations and the alleged Lekki massacre. All this brought the protests to an abrupt end. So, what are the present realities? Ajoke Ulotse tells us in this report.
For days in October 2020, the EndSars movement became a global conversation. It all began in Nigeria, where young people unusually took to the streets, demanding that the government ends the reign of a notorious group of men in black. The alleged shooting of a young man by officers attached to the Special Anti-Robbery Squad in Ogeli, a town in Delta State, on the 4th of October, sparked the renewed outrage. But this was not a first. SARS was established in 1992 to tackle increasing cases of robbery in Lagos. A few years later, it rose to popularity following some successes recorded in stopping daredevil criminals. In no time, it was replicated in other parts of the country. Several years after, all that characterized the squad were reports of harassment, extortion, and extrajudicial killings.
Whenever I see SARS officers, I'm always sad. I always wish that they disappear or consumed by fire immediately I see them, because they have destroyed me in a way that I have become helpless. Only God can help me.
Human rights group Amnesty International documented 82 cases of torture and ill treatment by SARS officers on young people between January 2017 and May 2020. As the number of victims continued to grow in the last 5 years, the hashtag EndSars also gained momentum as an annual ritual culminating in the widespread global demonstrations that shook the world in October. Unlike many protests before this, young people were relentless and loud this time, forcing government to make its first move.
The Special Anti-Robbery Squad of the Nigerian Police, otherwise known as SARS, is hereby dissolved across all formations, the 36 state police commands, and the Federal Capital Territory, where they currently exist.
But what ought to be cheery news may have become a familiar tune sung by authorities for the 5th time in 4 years, with nothing really changing.
The police is the problem. This unit is a problem. If they move somebody from one unit to another, it's still the same problem. We want to know that these people are removed from the system totally before the police is reformed. The police will be reformed, but we want SARS to be dissolved. We want SARS to be ended permanently. We don't want people to move from one unit to another. We don't want them to be given another name. And very importantly, we want the president to address us.
The calls for authorities to speak out also prevailed as President Muhammadu Buhari acknowledged the wrongful conduct of some officers.
The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives.
But protesters remained undeterred. Pledges of reforms were not enough to douse the embers of years of mistrust for government promises. Hence, they stayed put. The October 2020 EndSars protests have been described by some observers as the most memorable rights march in Nigeria, with protesters uniting for a cause, organizing themselves peacefully and preventing every form of hijack from miscreants. The usual lines of religion and ethnicity, known to color most agitations in the country, were missing on the streets for weeks. But in a matter of days, hoodlums hijacked the widely acclaimed peaceful protest and burning public and private property. On the 20th of October 2020, the Lagos state government imposed a curfew, What happened thereafter at the Lekki toll gate venue of the EndSars protest remains shrouded in accusations and counter-accusations.
These are the bullets they used in shooting us yesterday. These are the bullets we see have some. We see have tear gas. The police used in threatening us to run away. We are here. We don't have gun. We don't have cutlass. We don't have machete. We don't have anything.
The Nigerian army has continued to deny firing at unarmed protesters at the Lekki toll gate. Prior to the invasion, the National Executive Council directed state governors to set up panels of inquiry to probe allegations of police brutality and human rights abuses. Many of the panels have continued to hear these cases, including the alleged shooting at the Lekki toll gate.
When they go to the toll gate, the area around the toll gate, the police was already trying to deter people who wanted to burn the Oriental Hotel on the left. And the commander on the ground met genuine EndSars protesters and some hoodlums. By the time they were reaching that area, as you see in this video, the protesters wearing light colors with some white and things like that came to challenge the soldiers and started pelting them with stones and bottles.
Despite the ongoing inquiries, government has continued to go after frontline protesters, freezing their bank accounts, imposing travel restrictions and arresting others, an act some of the protesters have described as a clear violation of their human rights.
You know, it's our country and we are all looking for a better Nigeria. We all want a Nigeria where things work. We want a system that I would have done this a million times, and I don't, for 1 minute, actually regret my participation.
The government action amounts to economic terrorism. So they are the ones who are being terrorists, to be honest. Sort of restricting the account of a young business person, a young business owner, or just any legitimate business that pays taxes, that employs people in the society is cruel and unfair.
Despite receiving a huge backlash for these actions, authorities insist it is backed by law to prosecute any action that threatens the peace of the country.
There is a constitution that says clearly, under section 33, defines the rights of citizens to freely protest in a peaceful way. But where a peaceful protest turns into riot and violence and looting, there is a law and order duty, a function to be performed. Now, the laws of the country must be allowed to decide, to rule on wrongdoing on the part of just anybody.
Although protesters have vacated the streets since October 20, conversations about alleged government high-handedness and calls for accountability have returned online where they started.
We are only staying off the streets, but this continues online. So until when we have a better strategy, then we all kick out again, or we kick off. But till then, we are all low-key, nobody's on the streets, nobody's protesting on the streets. Let's give the government some time to work. If they don't work, if after the given time they don't do what they promised us, then we know what next to do.
As the country continues to wait for the outcome of the judicial panels set up across the country to deliver justice, it has become crucial for government to deliver measurable change to the people in order to prevent a breach of the already fragile peace. Ajoke Hulotsi, Gist Nigeria.
All right, so have there been any gains made so far since the EndSars protest ended? Tell us on Twitter at Gist Nigeria TV.